Hey everyone, so here's the notes for section 2.2. We are actually just doing part of our 2.2 notes over quadratic regression. Now, before we get into that, I would like you guys, because you guys just learned about how to write a parabola from vertex form into standard. So you should see this, try this in your 2.2 notes, so please turn to that. And what I would like you to do is go ahead and pause the video and try this example on your own. So go ahead and do that for me, please. Okay, so this is what you should have gotten as your vertex and standard form. So the purple kind of shows you what is in the vertex form, how I did it. Remember, you solve for your A, you indicate your vertex, H and K, and your X, Y. Plug that into the vertex form to solve for your A. And then we take our vertex form and we FOIL or multiply or distribute it all out to get to our standard form. So this is what our answer should look like. So make sure you just follow what I have on here. And then if you didn't do it correctly or didn't get it correct, make sure you ask questions. You can always email me or come in before, after school, or during interventions to do so. Okay, so now we're actually getting into our regression. So go and turn to this, user quadratic regression. So we're going to actually watch a video from Savas to talk about how do we use our graphing calculator. So yes, you need to have that to write a quadratic function. So this is from our Savas. It's going to kind of give us some information here. So I'm going to go ahead and play this.
Esteban is training for the discus throw. His coach recorded the horizontal distance and height of one of Esteban's discus throws. The points show the horizontal distance the discus traveled in meters and the height of the discus in meters. Use quadratic regression to predict the height of the discus when it has traveled 15 meters from Esteban.
So what I would suggest is go ahead and write these points down. So write these points down if you need to, okay? But what we're going to do is actually use a table, and they may talk about it, so I'm going to kind of let this video go as well. But we're going to create a table so we can use our regression feature on our graphing calculator.
The data shows the discus only rising, but when the discus starts to fall to the ground, it will make a shape that looks like a parabola. The model should be a quadratic function. You can use graphing technology to perform quadratic regression with the data. Enter the coordinates of all of the points into the table.
So that's what we're going to do. So I'm actually going to go ahead and show you how to do this because it really doesn't show you here. So look at all the points that we have. We are going to create, I'm going to do a horizontal table with all of these values. Okay, so we have our X, which is the distance, and then our Y's, which is the height of the discus. So let me go ahead and come here and we're going to create our table. So we're going to deal with our X's and then our Y's. Okay. Now, if you need to, let me kind of go back there. If you need to pause to write down these numbers, you can do that. Same thing. Anytime during this video, make sure you pause so you can get all this information written down. Okay, so here our X values kind of just go in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we have 9 and 10. Then we are basically using from are here these Y values. So if you're asking, where am I getting all these X and Y's? Well, it's from the points that they gave to us. So once again, pause the video if you need to write those points down so you know where they're coming from. Make sure you do that. Okay, so let me write down all the Y values here. So I have 1.75, then 2.71, 3.52, 4.28, and then 5.45, 6.12, 6.79, 7.34, 7.99, and 8.55. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to plug this into our graphing calculator. So please turn your graphing calculator on. So where we're going to go first is we're going to press what is called this stat key, S-T-A-T. So go ahead and press that for me, please. It's right by basically our arrows. Now we're going to have to edit our lists. So you're going to press enter from here. Now you're going to see an L1 and L2. Now what we're going to have to do, you'll see that I already have numbers here. If that is the case for you, what you're going to have to do is I'm going to right arrow over and I'm going to up arrow so my L1 is highlighted. To clear, not delete, but clear list, press the clear button. So press clear and then enter. Now we get to go and put all the numbers for L1. Now, what are the numbers for L1? So L1 represents your X values. So when we are doing a table, your X's are always your L1 and the Y's are always L2. So let's go ahead and plug our L1s into our graphing calculator. Now, after every number, so we press 1, after every number, press the enter key, and then it should be there. So we're going to do that for every single one of these. So after each number, press the enter. And remember, you can always pause the video if I'm going too fast. Now I'm going to do the same thing, go to my L2, so I right arrow over, I'm going to go up so I can clear, don't press the delete. What happens, it deletes the entire graph or entire list, and that is not good. So press clear, enter. Now I'm going to put my L2, which hopefully if you needed to pause the video to write this down on your notes, I highly suggest doing that. So it makes it easier to plug these numbers in. So I'm going to plug in my Y values in for my L2s here. So, oops, let me go to, my graphing calculator. Okay, so same thing. I put in the numbers and then I press enter after each one of them. Now make sure you plug these numbers in correctly, because if not, it will change your answer just slightly. Okay, now that we have put in our L1 and L2, we are trying to get our equation. Now remember, we are doing quadratic functions. So once again, we're going to go back to the stat key. So that is right by the arrow, so press stat. Now we're going to calc, so we need to go over to calculate. Now, once again, as stated, we are doing quadratics in this unit. So what we're going to do is go to number 5, where it says quad reg. So I just down arrow to number 5. Now I need to press enter. Now you need to make sure your X list says L1 and your Y list says L2. If not, it's going to give you an error. Another way it could give you an error is that in your list, you don't have the same amount of X and Y values. That will also say error, okay? So I go ahead and down arrow all the way to calculate. Don't worry about frequent lists. Don't worry about this store here. Just go all the way down to calculate and press enter. And so what happens is that, look, we are writing our quadratic function as we are in this section in standard form. So it gives us our A, B, and C values, or the coefficients. Don't worry about this R squared. We don't use that, okay? So our equation here, so we're going to write it out, and we're going to kind of round to 3 decimal places here. Usually it will tell you where to round to. So here's our A, negative 0.027. Then our B is 1.058. And our C is 0.672. So let's write that out. Now I'm going to go back to the video because it did ask us for something else other than the equation. So going back, it asked that use the quadratic regression, which we just got, to predict the height of the discus when it traveled 15 meters from Esteban. So we need to talk about, well, what does this 15 meters represent? Is it the X or the Y values? Well, if it traveled 15 meters from Esteban, remember, we have distance as our X value. So what we're going to do is take this number 15 and into our function, plug it in for X to get our Y value. So our X is equal to 15. So let's plug that into our regression. So this is what it is. This is our regression. So for every place we see x, we're going to plug that in. So we have y equals negative 0.027 times 15 squared plus 1.058 times 15, then plus 0.672. Now, I'm going to go ahead and plug this whole thing into my calculator. So once again, as usual, if you need to pause the video so you can slow down and then write stuff, go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and do that there. So I have negative 0.027 and then parentheses 15. And here's our x squared. Okay. Then I'm going to have plus 1.058 parentheses 15. And then I'm going to have plus 0.672. And then I press enter. And so we get about 10.467. And then if we kind of look at all our y values, they're rounded to 2 decimal places. So that's what we're going to do here. So our answer here is going to be 10.47, because we're going to do that since we look at our y's, they're rounded to 2 decimal places here. And don't forget your label. So we go back to our video. It says the distance, and I know the strip here is kind of hovering, but distance is in meters here. So it's in meters if you can see underneath. Okay. So we have 10.47 meters, and that is our answer. So that's how we do a regression, or use the quadratic regression feature to write the quadratic equation. Okay, I'm going to write down basically the steps, and I would advise that you go ahead and you pause the video to write it down. So here are the steps to use the quadratic regression feature. Go ahead and pause the video if you have not already done so you can write down all of these steps in your notes, because I highly suggest doing that, because if you ask me how to do it, I'm going to say refer back to your notes. And if you don't have it, I'm going to tell you to look at the filled in notes or watch the video again to get these steps down. So write these in your notes. Okay, so I'm going to do a second video, and I'm going to have you guys try another example where you are using the quadratic regression to write the quadratic, okay? So make sure you watch part 2 of the video.